It's time to rumble! It's the Royal Rumble! Featuring the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase, alleged real world champion, Ric Flair, Tatuka, Haku, Legion of Doom Animal, Tizo Santana, the Barbarian, the Texas Tornado, Repo Man, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Nikolai Volkov, the Big Boss Man, Hercules, Roddy Piper, Jake the Snake Roberts, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Erwin R. Shyster IRS, Legion of Doom Hawk, The Undertaker, Randy Macho Man Savage, The Berserker, Virgil, Colonel Mustafa, Rick the Model Martel, Skinner, Sergeant Slaughter, Sid Justice, the Warlord, and the Immortal Hulk Hogan. It's winner take all. It's the Royal Rumble.
Hey guys, it's Steve from Mantis here. You're listening to the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. Only on the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel. Jay, let's go!
Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, the boss is back. Please welcome back to the show my good, close, personal, longtime friend, Tyrone. Tyrone, how you doing, Polly?
I'm starting to feel like the Bruce Pritchard of this show with his relationship with the WWE. I take some breaks every now and then. I'm needed back. I come back. We don't know how long it'll be. Maybe another break. But yeah, the prodigal son has returned yet again.
Very excited to have you back. You were very sorely missed. We had a lot of great guests on, and we actually have a few more guests coming up in the near future. But I can't tell you how much I missed booking with you, buddy. It's just never the same. As much as we have some wonderful guests and some great chemistry with some of our guests, it's just never the same as the two OGs. So I'm really, really excited to be back in the saddle with you today, buddy.
As am I. And the fact that we're doing the Royal Rumble 1992 today, though we're dropping this the week of the actual Royal Rumble. This is an interesting one for me, only because there's not a lot on this one that I would change, Jay. So I'm very curious to see what you have in store for me today.
I've got tons. I've got tons and tons and tons. I really went to town on this. I'm very, very curious to see what your final take is on everything. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are listening to this, I would hope that you'd be a little bit well-versed in what had happened back in the latter part of the fall of 1991. We rebooked, Tyrone and I did, back-to-back Survivor Series 1991, as well as this Tuesday in Texas. At that time, we had The Undertaker leaving Tuesday in Texas as the World Wrestling Federation champion. After a distraction from Jake the Snake Roberts, Tyrone had devised this very interesting finish in which a cobra had been inserted inside of The Undertaker's urn, and this caused the immortal Hulk Hogan to be distracted to the point of walking right back into a tombstone pile driver for that obligatory 3 count. So as we hurtle towards the Royal Rumble 1992, we've had a lot of very interesting twists and turns. Of course, we were developing a Ric Flair and Roddy Piper feud, which was going on between Survivor Series and Tuesday in Texas. But before we get too far into the booking here, Tyrone, do you want to catch everybody up?
You forgot one thing, though, Jay. You forgot the most important thing that has happened in this booking, and that is the Nasty Boys are the tag team champions again.
They are indeed. However, I do have to burst your bubble here, Tyrone, because in canon, Brian Knobbs was injured He had a torn rotator cuff injury, which is actually a worked injury. In reality, he had actually been stabbed at a house show on his way back to the ring, and he was off this particular card. So I don't think we're going to see a tag team title defense tonight, unfortunately.
That's fine. That means they're still the champs. So whatever. I don't care if there's a defense or not.
So you'd be fine if they were still the tag team champions today and they hadn't defended in, say, 25 years.
Yeah, 100% I would. There's no arguing whatsoever that would be an incredible way to book them.
That's very, very fair, I suppose, for you. I had a couple of shots of vodka with Brian Knobs in Dallas, Texas, and he is a funny son of a gun. But I digress. Tyrone, would you like to tell the listening audience about what's going on in canon in the World Wrestling Federation at this time? What's a brewing here in the early part of 1992?
Well, in the early part of 1992, as Jay mentioned, we had our Tuesday in Texas a few months prior with Undertaker walking out as your WWF champion. There was the thing of Bret the Hitman Hart being the WWF Intercontinental Champion for quite a while. But just, I believe it was 2 or 3 days prior to this Royal Rumble event, he did lose it to the Mountie at a house show. Bret was legit running a fever of like 103 degrees. He was sick. They got the title off of him. We will get to that later. It's an interesting time in the company because this era, this roster, I think it's arguably the most stacked it's ever been. You have your Bret Hart, you have your Hulk Hogan, you have your Randy Savage, you have your Jake Roberts, you have your Roddy Pipers, you have guys who are on the undercard that are still heavy-duty names, like a Jim Duggan, like a Texas Tornado, one of Jay's personal favorites, Hercules. You have The Undertaker going. You have Jimmy Snuka still sticking around. Like, this is a stupidly big lineup. But we're going to get into the actual event, which took place on January the 19th, 1992, in the capital of New York, Albany, New York, at the Knickerbocker Arena. There was a sold-out attendance of just over 17,000 people. And yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful event. It was Bobby Heenan's greatest moments ever in commentary. I think you'll agree with me on that. It's just perfect. To me, it is the perfect Royal Rumble match, and I don't know how you change this one. So, Jay, why don't you take it away and let us know what we're doing with this event?
That sounds good to me, my friend. Well, much like we just discussed, we will be going back into our multiverse here and picking up where we left off at Tuesday in Texas. So in much the same fashion as in canon, the World Wrestling Federation Championship had been stripped of The Undertaker as the circumstances surrounding the title changing hands was pretty controversial. Jack Tunney determined that the undisputed champion would be crowned at the Royal Rumble, as for the first time ever, the last man standing would be the undisputed champion. Hogan was understandably...
Can I just cut
Sure.
you off for 1 second here?
Certainly,
I genuinely thought you were going to not have that stipulation. I thought this was going to be the first Rumble where, in our world, the main, or not, I guess it wouldn't be the first one because you did that in 91 with the winner going to Mania. I thought we would keep that going on, to be perfectly honest. You would either keep the belt on Taker or have just a title match on the card.
No, we decided to strip it. I think it makes a lot of sense for this. I didn't want to change that part of history, and I think it adds a lot of stakes to this particular Royal Rumble match. Easy for me to say. And, you know, to your point earlier, the amount of star power that's in this match, I think it warrants a stipulation like that, having the championship on the line. I mean, it really is a who's who of wrestling superstars. So why not keep the title at, up for grabs?
No, I get it. I'm curious how much of a shot we all thought that IRS or the Berserker had at winning the title in this match.
Well, it's every man for himself, and any given man can win the championship at any given time. Anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation, Tyrone.
You're absolutely right, but that just brings me to, it reminds me of current day product where do you remember when there was qualifying matches for the Rumble and now men just declare that they're in it? Do you have a preference in that? Would you rather say, oh God, AJ Styles just declare that he's in it, or would you rather see the obvious squash match of AJ Styles versus like Akira Tozawa? Because it was always a one-sided match, so I'm fine with the declaring thing. I know a lot of people hate it though.
Well, you know what I would like is I wouldn't hate what AEW does actually in terms of having people ranked. There's rankings in AEW, so why not rank the top 10 or 15 superstars in the WWF for both men and women, WWE, excuse me, for both the men and women's division, and then you allow the first top 15 superstars, excluding champions, to be entered in, and then the other 15 have to vie for those positions. I do think it's important to leave a couple of empty slots as well for surprises, which, as you know, Tyrone, is my absolute favorite part of the Royal Rumble. So, but I mean, to answer your question succinctly, I think that the qualifying matches make sense for maybe some of the lower card talent, but the upper card talent, I think, should probably be given kind of a pass to go right in.
All right, that makes sense to me. I like the idea of the ranking system. I don't know why they don't do that. I feel like if they did, somehow Omos would be number one every week. So maybe it's okay that they're not doing it. But anyway, why don't you get back to telling us all about 1992, and I'll try not to interrupt again.
No. You interrupt me all you want, Buttercup. All right. So, as we were developing this particular wrinkle in the story, Hulk Hogan was understandably upset by but ultimately agreed with the ruling. Hogan had not forgotten that Jake Roberts was in large part responsible for all this, costing Hogan the title not only once, but twice in separate matches. Roberts has mysteriously disappeared since Tuesday in Texas. Having left Savage laying and loading the Undertaker's urn with a cobra, everyone was speculating as to what the motivation was for these attacks and when Jake would strike next. It was just silence on the part of Jake the Snake Roberts. Meanwhile, The Undertaker would wrestle Macho Man Randy Savage at the December 21st, 1991 edition of Superstars. The match was a draw as both men brawled on the outside to a double countout. The following week on Superstars, Hogan was a guest on the funeral parlor with Paul Bearer. As Hulk waxed about winning the Royal Rumble match, Jake emerges from the casket and sneaks up behind Hogan, only to be nailed with a hard right hand from the Hulkster. This sends Jake cowering to the back with Hogan in hot pursuit. Later that night, as Savage is competing in a match against the Berserker, both men being Roberts and Taker, rush the ring. They're wearing Savage out when Hogan emerges to make the save. The heels take a powder as Hogan and Savage have the high ground. Jake then grabs the house mic and challenges both men to a tag team match at the Royal Rumble. Both Hogan and Savage are hesitant at first, but eventually lock into that old Mega Powers handshake and agree to the challenge. At the Royal Rumble, we're going to see the immortal Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage take on Jake the Snake Roberts and The Undertaker.
Are they still in the Rumble match? Like, are they pulling double duty, or is that all we're seeing of the four of them?
This, in my mind, was a little bit structured based on 97. So we're going to have a lot of people that are in singles matches or tag matches on the undercard that are going to be in the Rumble match as well. I kind of as well use Saturday night's main event as a template here. I thought, you know what? What better way, what hotter way to get this event started than have this tag team match go on first? Plus, you then give everybody time in the match to rest up and to take a little bit of a break before they go into the Rumble match because, you know, some will be in there longer than others.
I like starting the show hot like this with that match. The only thing that I didn't like that you said there was comparing it to the Saturday night's main event. They did that because it was 11:30 at night. 92 pay-per-views were at like 4 in the afternoon.
No. I understand. I just meant in terms of front loading the show with a big time match as opposed to, you know, just having something like we got, which was what, the Orient Express versus the New Foundation, which was, you know, a decent match, but really wasn't doing a whole lot in terms of increasing buy rates in 92.
That is fair, but little known fact about me there, Mr. J. Orient Express is low-key one of my favorite tag teams ever.
Is it because of the theme song?
That horribly in 2022 racist theme song that I can't say it's for that at all. I can say it's because of Mr. Fuji is one of the main reasons.
See, I can see how you'd think that it might be insensitive or inappropriate for that theme song, but it is a really good theme.
Yeah, I guess it's really no different than me really liking Jive Soul Bro for Slick to a degree. So yeah, you know what? It is a pretty badass theme. I will say that.
Yeah, it really pops. It gets the crowd going. There's a good beat to it. Yeah, and they were a great tag team, Kato and Tanaka.
And
So
it was also Bull Nakano's theme song, and we all know my absolute love of her.
that is true. That is very true. So this particular match starts off relatively calm and collected. The Undertaker starts with Savage in the ring. The Mega Powers are back to their old tricks, working as a unit and isolating the Undertaker from his corner. Jake seems rather unmoved by this turn of events. Finally, the Undertaker mounts a comeback and clears the ring of Savage. He then hits the Undertaker with a hard throat thrust and desperation scoop slam. Even the Undertaker can't withstand Mega Powers' double team indefinitely. As Taker reaches for the tag, Roberts drops off the apron to the floor and threatens Paul Bear with a hard right hand. As Paul Bear flinches, Jake laughs psychotically and leaves ringside area to the locker room, leaving the Undertaker alone. Hogan, now aware of Roberts' absence, gives chase to the back in an effort to catch up with Jake. We cut back to the ring, and Randy is hitting Taker with everything he's got. He's finally poised on the top rope and delivers the top rope elbow smash for the pin. Your winners, Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage. As we cut back to the ring, we get a sense that although Savage has been tormented by The Undertaker, he has a newfound respect for the dead man and his toughness. Savage leaves the ring respectfully as The Undertaker and Paul Bear collect themselves.
It makes sense that you put the baby faces over 100%. It's 92 WWF. What I really do like is that you gave Savage the pin and not Hogan. I think that was a really smart idea. I like this. This is good. I like how it's just the two of them in the ring. The other guys are backstage. This whole thing makes sense to me. It's sort of similar to me of SummerSlam 91 booking, like the real booking. But
Yep.
I get it. Don't don't fix what ain't broke.
Yeah, and I think that based on the fact that we've seen Savage, or rather Hogan and Roberts at this point, it's this cat and mouse game. So I think you got to think that at this point Hogan is so seething and wants to get his hands on Roberts so bad. He doesn't even really care much about the match at this point. He just wants to get his hands on Jake.
Yeah, no, you're wow, excuse me. Your blood feud with somebody is totally more important than a wrestling match. You're obviously not going to try and put a body slam on him. You're going to try and beat the living fuck out of him.
Yeah, 100%. So what's the next match on the card, Tyrone?
On the original card, the next match, well, the original first match, as Jay said, was the New Foundation and the Orient Express. Then followed by that, we have Roddy Piper versus the Mountie, Jacques Rougeau, for the WWF Intercontinental Championship.
The next match on the card is the alleged real world's champion, Ric Flair, going up one-on-one up against Roddy Piper.
Wow, you're really giving like a WrestleMania-esque Rumble card here. They never stack the Rumble cards this big. This is interesting.
Yeah, I thought, well, based on what we got, I was going to do the exact opposite.
Okay. All right, you're just shitting all over this thing. I swear to God, if the Beverly Brothers don't make an appearance on this, we're going to have heat.
This card, I mean, other than the fact that the Rumble match itself is touted as maybe the greatest Rumble match ever, this was a really lousy card.
It wasn't great, but what I like about it is it's Roddy Piper's singles title victory, the only one he had for the company. You get the Orient Express, which I already talked about my love for. You get the Beverly Brothers, who I also love. You get the character of the Mountie, which was so stupid and over the top that I love it again. So to me, it's just nostalgic. I know it's not good. It's like WrestleMania 9, Jay. It is like widely renowned as one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. But I love it, and I know you do too. I
I
love
do.
watching. I love
I
watching Doink
absolutely
the
do.
Clown versus Crush. I love watching fucking Bob Backlund make a random appearance against Razor Ramon. I love the togas. I love the weird seating. So this to me is like my Royal Rumble of WrestleMania 9.
Yeah, no, I get it. I completely get it. And in the archives, actually, last week we covered Royal Rumble 1993 with Tyler of the Counted Out 7 podcast. And he actually managed to book a really, really interesting road to WrestleMania for WrestleMania 9. So I think we're going to have him back on the show to kind of, he's obliged to finish his task here, I think, and book 9 for us.
That's cool, but I want to be on that one too. That's a three-way call. That's for damn sure.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, I think that it actually works out good for you and I, because I don't think either one of us would change anything about 9 other than Gonzalez and Taker, maybe.
I probably wouldn't have the whole narcissist perfect situation either.
Yeah, that's fair. But no, we'll definitely come WrestleMania season make sure that we do a 3-man booth on that one. So this match with Piper and Flair was actually signed with the stipulation that the winner would be the entrant number 30 and the loser would be entrant number 1. The rivalry is continuing on from Survivor Series and their brawl at Tuesday in Texas. This was a pretty solid match. The two had a spirited match with a lot of fists exchanged. Flair works over Piper's leg. They brawl on the outside. Piper takes a ride to the steel steps. Back in the ring moments later, the finish comes as Flair is going for the figure 4. Piper kicks Rick into the turnbuckle and executes a backslide for the pin, using a hold that Flair wasn't really expecting from a brawler like Roddy. Your winner, Roddy Piper.
Okay. Not mad at this. Like the stipulation of number 1 and number 30. I think they only ever did that. They did it a couple times, but for some reason, the one that comes to my mind completely is Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Duke the Dumpster Drosy. I don't know why that is permanently in there, but it's one of those weird facts. I'm wondering now when we get to the Rumble match if Flair is going to go coast to coast. I don't know where we're going with this, obviously, but I'm not mad at any of this so far. Jay, you're doing great.
Thanks, buddy. I will see what you think about the next one. I do have to correct you that the Bret Hart injury was actually a work. He was aware a couple of weeks before this that he was going to be dropping the title to the Mountie. So we've actually placed this match on the card. The next match on the card is for the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Championship. It is Bret Hitman Hart defending against the Mountie, accompanied by the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
All right, just tell me how Bret Hart destroys the Mountie and piss me off. Let's go.
So as a result of Bret being zapped by the shock stick, the weapon was barred from ringside. These two have a very good match with some classic.
Okay. How the fuck were we living in an era, by the way, where a shock stick was just a random wrestling weapon? Like, that could kill a motherfucker. But no, it's just something that he comes out and he just sticks on people because he's the Mountie.
He sure is, man. I'm the Mountie. Yeah, he was great. I love it. Okay, so here's a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Which theme song did you prefer? Did you prefer the "I'm the Mountie" theme or the instrumental?
The Quebecers the entire time. The Quebecers theme song.
I like the instrumental.
No, I love the Quebecers. We're not the Mounties, because the RCMP legitimately sent them a cease and desist.
Oh yeah, that was funny. The Quebecers were an underrated tag team.
Yeah, and you look at the fact that half of them is still going strong as PCO now in 2022. But let's get back to 92 and tell me all about how Bret Hart destroys the Mountie.
So as I was saying, the shock stick had been used to zap Bret Hart earlier on an episode of Superstars, and thus we had barred the weapon from ringside. These two have a pretty solid match. Some classic wrestling. The Mountie delivers a vicious neck breaker to Hart. Jimmy Hart is at ringside and again throws water on Bret, which is something that would be conductive for the electricity, and that was something that had happened previously on the episode of Superstars. Jimmy Hart then attempts to shock the Hitman at the same time with the ref being distracted by the Mountie. Bret then pries the stick out of Jimmy's hands and nails the mouth of the South right in the kisser. Jimmy is laying on the apron, and thus this continues to distract the referee. The Mountie tries to hit Bret from behind, but Bret Hart catches him with a hard shot to the breadbasket. With the ref distracted, it's time for the Mountie to get his. As Bret shocks the Mountie, the water on the Hitman's tights absorbs the electricity as well. Both men collapse on the mat with the Mountie's arm falling on Bret's chest. An oblivious referee makes the count, and your winner and new Intercontinental Champion is the Mountie. The Roddy Piper then comes down to check on Bret, and he's not moving. The Mountie has cleared the cobwebs at this point and gets in Piper's face.
Okay, so you did two things that make me really happy here. You gave the title to the Mountie, which I'm not gonna lie, I did not see that coming. I fully thought you just squash him. And number two, you used the term breadbasket. I have not heard that said in 25 fucking years since it was a Gorilla Monsoon saying console. Oh my god, 25 years ago was like 97. I'm thinking like 30 years ago. Whoa, time is going quick. But yes, I love this. I love that you set up the Piper Mountie feud. It makes sense. I love that you left Bret Hart essentially dead and electrocuted in the ring. That's some hardcore shit, man.
Yeah, man. I do like a good bread basket. I can't lie. So, there's nothing like a good warm piece of bread, fresh out of the oven with some butter. Anyhow, I digress. Clearly, I haven't had dinner yet. So after we finish this encounter, we cut to a promo for Saturday night's main event on Fox on Saturday, February 8th. Gorilla mentions that hopefully we'll have an update on the Hitman at that time, and that both the Mountie and Piper will be in attendance for that particular event. So are we planting seeds for some sort of a match, possibly? I don't know. What's the next match on the card, my friend?
Though, 1 second before I get to that. It's crazy to think of the fact that in 1992, they're waiting a month to be like, hopefully we have an update on him by then. Whereas nowadays, it would be less than 12 hours. A tweet would be sent out that they're fine. They're in a local medical facility.
It would be more like 12 minutes, probably. But yeah, there's no slow burn anymore. You know what? Gorilla Monsoon's always his famous line was, just stay tuned to the World Wrestling Federation Network for the upcoming weeks and months, and we'll have some more information for you. So, they'd probably update fans before Saturday night's main event, maybe Superstars or Challenge or something. But I thought it was kind of a fun deal.
No, for sure. It blows my mind thinking how far we've come in 30 years. All right. Well, the next match on the card originally is my favorite, Bo and Blake, the Beverly Brothers. Shout out to Von Wagner down in NXT versus the Bushwhackers. What do we got here? Are we going old school sheep herder victory? Are we going Beverly Brother victory? Or are you just going to fuck around and take the whole thing away from me?
The next match on the card is Earthquake and Typhoon, the Natural Disasters, going up against the New Foundation.
Okay, this is the popcorn match, isn't it?
It's changing the pace of the card a little bit. We've always talked about ebbs and flows, you and I, and I also want to point out that from this point forward, any match that's going on prior to the Rumble is not going to have any entrance in it. So the participants in this match are not going to be in the Rumble and so forth until we actually get to the Rumble match. So it's also a way to kind of give a rest to the guys that are going to be doing double duty by putting a couple of matches on with people that aren't going to be involved in the main event.
That's fair. I get it. I really hope that you don't have Bret in the Rumble, though. I gotta say, leaving him dead, electrocuted in the ring, and bringing him out later, that's nope. Don't like that. No bueno.
Oh no, you don't want me to kill the ankle right now and right in the same night?
I mean, it's been done multiple times, but no, I don't. I don't want you to do that at all. I want to get to the slow burn of Bret being gone for a while, coming back triumphantly at some point, and then we fast forward a year and a half later, and he gets his leg kicked out from under his leg. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. I've always wanted to kick someone's leg up for their leg. Maybe I'll do it to you the next time I see you. Knock your pins out. Maybe I'll knock you in the breadbasket first.
Only if you buy me dinner first.
All right. So no, I'm not going to put a bun in the oven. I'm going to knock you in the breadbasket.
Well, I mean, little from column A, little from column B, maybe down the road. I don't know. What are you
Maybe
thinking, Jay? This is
I'm
getting
thinking.
weird. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying anymore.
I'm thinking maybe I'll do a loaded baguette match again, maybe for you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as the natural disasters of the new foundation go on in the ring, I'm pretty sure we're going to get some weird loaded baguette down the line when Frenchie Martin comes out with Dino Bravo. But what do you got for me right now with this match, Jay?
Well, it's a fun little match with some contrasting styles. This would be a fun way to break up the flow of the Royal Rumble event. The Anvil is trying to match power with Earthquake as Owen is running circles around Typhoon. The Disasters cut off the ring with Anvil taking the brunt of the offense. Finally, we get to a hot tag with Owen, who hits a spinning heel kick on Typhoon, followed by a missile drop kick. This sends Typhoon into the corner, where he tags in Quake. Owen hits a few clotheslines, then the Rocket heads upstairs and attempts a crossbody that is countered into a power slam for the pin. Your winners, the Natural Disasters.
I was going to say, if you had them lose after they originally left this pay-per-view the tag team champions, then you would have done them real dirty. So this is fine. It's the popcorn match. It's the let's go have a smoke match. It's the everything's fine. We'll be back in time for the Rumble match. It served its purpose. I'm sure it had some great spots with Owen. And yeah, it's fine. I'm not mad at this. Let's move on.
That's fair. I will do very much the same. The next match on the card is a singles contest. It is Shawn Michaels going up against Superfly, Jimmy Snuka.
Now, this is weird to me. Why is it Shawn versus Snuka? Why didn't you do Shawn versus Marty at this point and have Marty return after being thrown through the barbershop window?
I'm having Marty sell the injury through the barbershop window. The other thing
and
too
is Shawn versus Snuka just kind of thrown together, or was there any backstory? Or are we going to get to that?
Well, you know, we talked about this before on these pay-per-views back in the 90s, where a lot of times they'd kind of throw matches together. I felt like this was a good way for Shawn to kind of break out as a singles over a very established main event talent. I also feel like this is very similar to what I did last year for the Royal Rumble 1991, where I had The Undertaker wrestle a singles match instead of being in the Rumble. I felt like for the purposes of Shawn Michaels right now, having just recently turned heel and broken up with Marty, I think it's going to do him a much better service to have a singles match on the card with a high profile guy as opposed to being lost in the shuffle of a Rumble match, especially with the star power in this particular Rumble.
So you have the man in Shawn Michaels who just essentially committed attempted murder, throwing Marty Jannetty through a goddamn window, going one-on-one with the man who allegedly did commit a murder. This is an interesting feud.
Yes, I don't know if it's a feud so much. I think it's just a match, and I don't know if any sort of homicide was really considered before I booked this. But your point is taken, my friend. So Shawn's first big challenge since the barbershop, the newly single Michaels, enters the arena to a chorus of boos. Superfly is a step slower but can still move. This is a fun match, with the story being that no matter what Snuka attempts, Shawn is just step too quick for him. As Snuka is gaining the upper hand, he has Shawn reeling from a few chops and fists. Snuka builds up a head of steam and goes for the jumping headbutt that Shawn counters with a crescent kick. HBK then hits the side suplex for the pin. Your winner, Shawn Michaels.
Absolutely no surprise here. Makes sense. Pushes Shawn all the way. What did you say he won with?
Side suplex.
That was so weird that was his finisher at the time, because I remember playing, I want to say, WWF Royal Rumble on the Sega Genesis, and that being his finisher, and like going back recently and playing that game and being like, what the fuck is this? I forgot all about that until the video game brought it back to my memory.
I'm pretty sure he still had the side suplex as a finish in the WrestleMania, the arcade game, too.
That one I can't confirm or deny, just because all I think about with that one is like doing the clown's hand turning gigantic and all the really weird shit that you could do in that one. It was tons of fun, don't get me wrong, but it was just over the top, beyond over the top.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny that you bring up the Royal Rumble video game because for those of you that listened to our Royal Rumble 1993 episode last week, we actually had a fun little homage to that video game with bringing it into the show with that video game's theme music as our intro last week. So for those of you that are familiar with the game, it was a fun little Easter egg for you.
Indeed it was. Indeed it was. Well, what do we got next? Because essentially it's the Royal Rumble left on the real card.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Royal Rumble.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you're going to keep going and give me all the rules there, but
No,
okay. So
I already
what
did that once this month.
What are we doing this time then? Are you giving me every order of every participant? Are we just bringing in the important people? Like, you know what I mean? How are we doing this one?
I'm just going to do a couple of notes in the match, a couple of key points in the match. I'm not going to go through every entrance. I will mention some substitutions. So replacing Shawn Michaels and Jimmy Snuka in the match will be the Legion of Doom. And replacing Jerry Saggs in the match will be Tatanka.
Okay. Makes sense to pull Saggs out of it with Knobs not being there. Totally get it. He's a tag champ as well. So yeah, let's do this. We know Ric Flair's number one. Who is number two?
Let's get there, my friend. This match is going to stay largely the same in a lot of the areas. A lot of the structure of the match is going to stay fairly cohesive. The first three entrants in the match are Ric Flair, the British Bulldog, and Haku. Towards the middle of the match, Jake Roberts enters. Now, remember, folks, that back in 1991, we had added the theme music to every single entrance presentation like we do have in modern day. So I just want you to imagine for a moment, Tyrone, that with the heat that Jake Roberts has at this point, when you hear that, trust me, trust me, trust me, imagine the pop you'd get from the crowd in 92.
Oh, yeah, it would be deafening whether or not it'd be pro or con, whatever side you're on, but it would be complete madness.
That's one of the funnest things about the Rumble is that, when you least expect to hear that theme song, something hits, something familiar, something that's going to get you out of your chair. It's just magic when it's done right. So a few seconds after Roberts emerges, Hogan rushes the ring. Jake hightails it and flies over the top rope and through the crowd to avoid the Hulkster, eliminating himself. Meanwhile, towards the latter half of the match, Savage, who has been in the ring for a few moments at this point, low bridges Flair, eliminating him from the match. Ric Flair is beside himself, and Mr. Perfect is livid as well. Heenan is stunned silent on commentary as Gorilla rejoices. The match continues with Hogan entering at number 27. He goes after The Undertaker. As we count down to number 29, Ted DiBiase's oh-so-familiar music hits. As DiBiase saunters to the ring, Mr. Perfect emerges and stops him. The two exchange a few words, and Perfect presents the $1 Million Man with a briefcase full of stacks of crisp American bills. DiBiase considers the offer, laughs like only he can, takes the briefcase, and heads back to the dressing room as Flair emerges through the curtain. The two exchange a glance, with Flair smiling and throwing out a woo for good measure. I guess everyone really does have a price for the $1 Million Man, even Ted DiBiase himself. What do you think so far, man?
I like that. That's a nice little twist. I did not expect that. When you said the first three entrants were blah 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 blah, Haku, Bulldog, and Flair, I expected you to not put Haku and just keep DiBiase in there. I like this. This makes sense. The only thing that I noticed that you definitely tweaked a bit of was with Jake with the self-elimination. In the real Rumble, Savage kind of did a self-elimination, but he got back in because you couldn't eliminate yourself at the time.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of this, I mean, if you go over the top rope, you're eliminated. We've seen that enough in history. There's precedent there. If you're over the top rope and both feet touch the floor, it doesn't really matter how you get there. You're out.
Unless you're The Rock in 2000, then somehow you just win.
That's very true. Big Show was not happy, and they called an audible, and Big Show came and took his head off after that particular tainted victory.
Indeedy duty. Well, we know that Ric Flair is now coming back into the ring at number 29. Is there another big name coming out at 30, or are we just skipping that whole thing?
So number 30, of course, was Roddy Piper, as per the match stipulations previously. All this is happening with Ted DiBiase and Ric Flair in the aisleway as the match is continuing, and everybody in the match is oblivious to the situation. Flair enters immediately and eliminates Savage from behind. Randy is super hot. First of all, he's very confused as to what the hell's going on. And we come down to our final four: Hogan, Sid Justice, Flair, and Piper. Piper and Flair exchange chops and right hands until finally the sleeper is applied to Flair. Flair is spent lying face first on the canvas. Sid eliminates Piper with a big boot. Hogan then follows up with a clothesline over the top rope for Sid. It's down to the final two: a prone Ric Flair, who's still on the mat, and the Hulkster. Suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, easy for me to say, the Cobra, the actual Cobra, has appeared in the ring, and it is poised in a striking position. Hogan is in disbelief. Roberts then emerges from the crowd from behind and nails Hogan with a vicious, brutal DDT. Roberts then collects the snake and heads back to the dressing room with the sinister grin and Cobra in tow. Flair now grabs his bearings and gains his bearings, manages to muscle up a lifeless Hogan for the win. Here is your winner and the undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. As we go off the air, we see Hogan gaining his bearings at ringside, asking, "What happened, brother?" As we cut to that famous "with a tear in my" promo taking us home.
Do you still have the guy dressed like Hulk Hogan in the front row getting real upset when he gets eliminated?
Oh, for sure. Of course he's there.
Now, I like that Flair still won. I love that. I love that we get the "with a tear in my eye" promo. I get why you changed it 100% because we're building to Jake and Hogan. I see that that's where you want to be at WrestleMania. I love it already. I'm excited for that one. I just love the original finish of this match so much that it's the only thing that's making it hard for me to accept the change. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I get it. And I actually talked to Tyler of the Counted Out 7 about this. I kind of gave him a sneak peek yesterday into my show notes and wanted to get his opinion. And he kind of said the same thing, that he thought it was perfect, that the way that the original Rumble went down. And he said that he felt that maybe the way that I had booked this was overshadowing Flair's win because of the Hogan and Jake stuff. But I countered by saying that the Hogan Sid stuff in canon did the exact same thing. So I feel like you're still getting Flair going over on, the biggest star in the company, Hogan. Yes, it was a tainted, victory with the DDT, but a win's a win. And I also think that, considering the type of heel that Flair was, all the things that we've done through the course of the evening to build on that Ric Flair character, he kind of is the last person you'd suspect to be walking out of Albany with the championship.
Well, and he always was the last person you would expect, especially when he came in at number 3 in the original one. But like I said, it's hard for me to 100% get behind it, but I do like what you did. I like where we're going in the terms of how Mania is shaping up. You're definitely planting the seeds for Hogan and Jake. You've got Savage and Flair, which means you've got Undertaker potentially going into an actual marquee type match instead of just a straight up random one with Snuka. We're gonna have the payback of Bret Hart and the Mountie probably. Like there's a lot of seeds that have been planted that I am a-okay with, to be perfectly honest with you. You have Jannetty still out. You brought that up, which means we're probably gonna get Shawn and Marty down the line. Like, you are making WrestleMania 8 out to be the WrestleMania 17 of the early ones.
Wow, that's quite a compliment. I appreciate that. I don't really know what it is about this particular year that that I really, really wanted to tweak and fix. I felt like there were so many things that we could make better. Um, yeah, to be honest with you, I've already booked the WrestleMania 8. I booked it a year ago. I might go back and change some things now after a year, but there's a lot of matches that I've had penciled in for a long time. Clearly, you can see where we're headed with the main event. It's a program that I long hold would have been one of the biggest programs in the history of the WWF, or at least the 90s. And I do think that had we had this program with Jake and Hogan right around this time frame when Jake was the consummate heel with the Trust Me and the Cobra and all the rest, I don't think Jake would have ever left the company. What do you think?
I think that's a very valid point. I mean, I think he did leave because he felt like he wasn't being used well, or unless maybe he got released. I'm not 100% sure on this one. I yeah, it's a weird one. Like, Jake makes all the sense to go forward with, but you mentioned one thing there where you say the main event, and clearly you're putting Hogan and Jake as the main event. I would put Flair and Savage as the actual main event and have a co-main event of Hogan and Jake, because I always hated the fact that Hogan and Sid closed the show. It should have been Flair and Savage. They had that crazy weird storyline going on with Photoshop photos of Flair and Liz, which I love, by the way. Sidebar, because that's what we always do on here. I don't know if you've been following anything that's been going on in Game Changer Wrestling and Matt Cardona, but they are completely redoing that gimmick right now with Matt Cardona, Chelsea Green, and Joey Janela, where Joey Janela photoshopped himself into all the photos. It is incredible. I love the throwback. For those of you who aren't aware, Matt Cardona is doing the best work he has ever done in his career. Now that he no longer has to say woo, 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 and spike your hair and take care or whatever it was, he is fucking killing it. The end of 2021 into 2022, this is going to be the year of Matt Cardona. I don't know if you're familiar with his work right now or not, Jay, but that's just a little sidebar.
No, I am aware of it. I mean, not, I think, to the granular detail that you are. I have some awareness of the angle, and there's definitely some overlap in terms of what we saw at WrestleMania 8. So I think that Cardona is a phenomenal talent. I was there live in attendance when he won the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 32. I never quite understood why we couldn't at least give the guy give him a month, give him 6 weeks, give him 90 days. Why does he have to drop the title back to The Miz the next night? I just thought it was kind of bizarre that we wouldn't at least try him as the champion. But I mean, that's the story of a lot of undercard talents in the WWE in the last several years. But no, I do agree with you. I think he's doing phenomenal work. He's just recently married Chelsea Green, which is great. Congratulations to them. So they are obviously very happy. And, they're working together as well, which probably makes them extremely satisfied as well in terms of their creative trajectory. So I think things are looking up for that couple and for Cardona specifically. So, yeah, I'm right on the money with that, man.
Yeah, there's not much else I can say. Now, as we're putting a bow on this show here, Jay, I do want to ask you a couple of questions. I know you and I are both the same. We don't really watch current product. You start to dip your toes back in the water around this time of year because I know you always watch the Rumble. You pay attention to the build to WrestleMania and see where they're going there. Who's going to win the Rumbles, male and female? Do you have any predictions or no?
I don't really have any predictions at this point. I will say I'm a little surprised that we revealed so many entrants to the women's Rumble that could have been huge sort of like mystery entrants or surprise entrants.
I think they're up to naming 20 of them at this point, or 21. And the fact that they actually announced that the Impact Knockouts champion will be in this with Mickie James. Why the fuck would that not be a surprise? Why are you announcing that? Summer Rae, Yeah, okay, I get announcing her, but that also could have been a cool little pop. We haven't seen her. The Bella twins, you know me, I do not care for them at all. I would be angry if they showed up and I didn't know, so I'm okay that they were spoiled. But I think, yeah, I just looked into it. There are 9 spots still left. I'm hoping we get a Bailey return and that she wins the Rumble and main events Mania. If she's cleared, that's what I see happening with the women's.
Yeah, I'm actually all for that. If she is cleared, I think that she should come in and win the Rumble. The other theory I did hear, and I know that you're not that crazy about legends, but I did hear the theory that possibly why not put Bailey and Lita together at WrestleMania, which I think might be a really interesting match, actually.
So I heard another little thing about that too, which is Charlotte Flair winning the Royal Rumble and then picking Lita as her challenger at Mania. So I think no matter what, Lita is having a match at WrestleMania. I just don't know with who at this point.
Well, she did say on SmackDown last week or a couple of weeks ago that she wanted to have one more run. So we'll see what that means. I mean, if that's a small run from Rumble to Mania, then I'm fine with that. I mean, I think she can still go. She's a great athlete. I think that, she's going to add something to the women's division. So I'm totally fine with that. I will say, though, before we get into the men's side of things, I do think that this Rumble for me is probably the most anticipated Rumble for me. Like 2020 was anticipated for me because, we heard the rumblings about Edge possibly, and of course Drew McIntyre. I was really high on Drew McIntyre, still am, but specifically at that time. I am very, very excited about this Royal Rumble. It's the first event that the WWE has put on in a couple of years that I have really, really felt is like a must see for me. How do you feel about it?
Um, I'm on the fence. I'm not gonna lie. I I see why everybody is very interested in the Bobby Lashley match, but it's not my cup of tea, really. It should be good. It should be fine. It is what it is. I am more excited to see Seth Rollins take the Universal title from Roman Reigns. I fully believe that is happening. Um, I think the mixed tag match has a lot of potential with the return of Beth Phoenix and having her team with Edge. I think that's pretty cool. Miz and Maurice, we know their role in this match is just to play chicken shit heels and then get beat. I feel like that's 100% what's going to happen. I know you're super jacked for Lesnar and Lashley. I love the work that Lesnar is doing right now. I also thoroughly enjoy the work that Lashley is doing right now. I don't care about this. This is just going to be a 6-minute hard hitting fight that Brock Lesnar is going to win. That's what's going to happen, and you know that.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think that because Lesnar's working a different character right now, I think the match might be a little bit different. I really enjoyed that Fatal 5-Way at day one. I did go back and watch it. Actually, I watched it live. I really, really enjoyed that match. And for me, I mean, I would love to see Big E win the Royal Rumble, get some of his steam back. And listen, I'm excited about the prospect of what's going to happen at Mania. I think a lot of people are thinking now that we've kind of thrown a wrinkle into Reigns being the head of the table, and then you have as Lesnar as sort of a character babyface now. That suddenly that kind of grows interest into the rivalry. I personally am not that into Reigns Lesnar because I feel like we've seen it so many times now. Understandably, yes, we've changed the parameters of it, but I'd be much more interested to see like a Lesnar Big E match at WrestleMania personally.
See, I would have 100% agreed with you a year and a half ago that I never wanted to see Lesnar and Reigns again, but I'm hooked on that. The whole what's Paul Heyman going to do angle is part of what's keeping me invested in that. I'm really, really looking forward to that one at Mania. I'm also looking forward to Seth Rollins defending the Universal title at Mania because I don't know who that will be against. This is going to segue me now into the men's Royal Rumble match. You look at the people who are announced for it already. I only really see either AJ Styles, Big E, or Kevin Owens pulling out the win out of the field that has been announced so far. But really, when you look at the rest of the roster, like there's rumors that McIntyre is missing the Rumble. There's rumors that, oh my God, who the hell was I thinking about? Oh, there's always the rumor of Goldberg coming back. But then you also have to wonder, will there be double duty? Like Roman Reigns loses to Seth Rollins. Does Reigns enter the Rumble and win it? Go and challenge Lesnar? Like, do you know what I mean? All those things could happen. I don't know where you're thinking on this, but I personally want to see Johnny Knoxville win the Rumble.
Yeah. No, you bring up some really interesting points, and that's, I think, again, because of the direction of this year's WrestleMania, I am more interested in this particular Royal Rumble than I have been in the last few years anyway. There's a lot of things that can possibly happen. There's a lot of questions to be answered. As far as McIntyre goes, I was just a couple of weeks ago on the Universal Wrestling podcast with our friend of the show, Nick, and we were discussing this very same topic. And I still really want to see that Brock Lesnar Drew McIntyre match that we were kind of robbed of a few years ago. I'd like to see that match as the car crash presentation that it should have been. But you really need to heat McIntyre back up. He's not at that level right now, in my opinion, because he's feuding with someone like Happy Corbin. It's not getting it done.
Yeah, he's super cold. And that is no disrespect to Baron Corbin. I think Baron Corbin is a fantastic talent. I just think he's got a not so fantastic gimmick right now, I guess I should say, with the whole what's his sidekick's name? Madcap Moss, Riddick Moss. He is not helping the situation at all. I think, honestly, I'm more invested in Sami Zayn these days than I am at Drew McIntyre. Because whereas Zayn doesn't, like, the gimmick's not taking himself seriously, even though he is taking himself so seriously. He's doing everything so smart. I don't know if you saw SmackDown, one of the more recent ones, where he was doing like a Jackass type show called Insane, and he was in a shopping cart. He was going to jump the ring. It was so ridiculous, but only somebody like he could pull that off. The fact that him and Johnny Knoxville are having this feud leading into the Rumble match is hilarious to me, because it's going to lead to either Knoxville throwing Sami Zayn out and Zayn losing his goddamn mind, or Zayn throwing Knoxville out and making it seem like it was the biggest thing in the world. Either way, like that, people are saying that Knoxville's probably going to be at Mania. I don't see that in any way, shape, or form. He's there to promote the Jackass 4 movie that is coming out the week after the Rumble. He's done after the Rumble.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, is it possible we're going to see a match between the two? It's certainly possible. I don't see how you drag that kind of a storyline out until WrestleMania. I feel like that's like a month.
Well, they did it.
So.
No, they did, but they did it with Bad Bunny last year in The Miz. Like, that started at the Rumble and it went all the way to Mania.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I tend to agree with you. I think it's a one and done for him. Just to get some publicity for the film. I do agree with you. In terms of the Rumble match itself, though, for me, I mean, there's a couple of dark horses. I'd love to see Cesaro win it, and Cesaro versus Lesnar is a match I've always wanted to see. I'd love to see Big E win it. I think that it would be great for him to get some of his momentum back after day one. But truthfully, the guy just re-signed with the company. I would love to see Kevin Owens win this and have BKO versus Seth at WrestleMania, if indeed that's the way we're going, with Seth winning the title. I would love to see Kevin Owens win the championship on the grand stage. It's time to pull the trigger on Owens in a big time way. And also, if you've been keeping up with Kevin Owens' WrestleMania t-shirts, this year is going to be a play on the WrestleMania 6 shirt, Tyrone.
Well, I guess I'm ordering that for myself, aren't I? Jesus Christ, I can't wait. It'll be an Ultimate Challenge ripoff. That is going to be fantastic. I would love Kevin Owens to win the Royal Rumble. Do not get me wrong. You know I'm a giant fan of him. Always have been, all the way back from his independence, pre-Ring of Honor, everything. I love the man from Maryville, Quebec, Canada. I don't know if it will happen. And if it does happen, I have a feeling it's going to go the way of the Shinsuke Nakamura victory, where it had all the potential of being fantastic, and it wasn't a good match. And it ended with a terrible heel turn. I think if they're going to put the belt on Rollins, he honestly needs a longer run. That is why I don't see an issue with Big E winning the Royal Rumble, challenging Rollins, and Rollins beating him, and still have Big E challenging for the title, chasing the title for a bit, maybe ending it down at Money in the Bank or something like that. But I think Rollins needs to be more than just kind of a transitional champion for Kevin Owens. Like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like with Owens and Rollins right now, they're almost playing off of 4 or 5 years ago with the Bliss of Jericho and the best friends with Jericho and Owens, and that's the vibe it's giving me.
No, that's completely fair. And we did just get that match at WrestleMania. I think it was 2 years ago. It was the COVID WrestleMania that we got Rollins and Owens. So I don't know if we necessarily need to go that quickly. I will disagree with you in the sense that I think that Rollins is an established enough star at this point. He's had the championship enough times that him having a shorter title reign, I don't think is going to hurt him much. But your point is taken. I always prefer a longer title run. That's why I truthfully, in a sense, really hope that Reigns doesn't lose at Royal Rumble, because I would love to see Reigns have this Bruno type run where he doesn't lose the championship until WrestleMania 40. And imagine, somebody taking the title off him after like 4 years, how much that would mean.
Oh, I would actually love that. It would be like the Nasty Boys not losing the tag titles in 30 years. That'd be fantastic. But you got to keep in mind that the company does the same thing a lot of the time. So that is like they just did with Roman Reigns. When they announce that it is a record-breaking day and you are now the longest reigning champion of a certain title, you're about to lose it. They did it with Bayley. They've done it with the New Day. They did it with AJ Lee. They did it with Nikki Bella. Like, it's just one of those things that as soon as that happens, you lose the championship almost immediately. So that's one thing that is making me feel like Seth Rollins is 100% walking out of the Royal Rumble as your Universal Champion.
Well, I really hope it's not the case. It's going to be very interesting to see this upcoming Sunday, or rather Saturday. I'm so used to calling it Sunday night pay-per-view. It's actually not even called a pay-per-view anymore. Now it's going to be a Saturday night premium live event that I'm going to be looking forward to watching, and I'm sure you'll be watching.
No, it's a pay-per-view, just like the Sky Dome is the Sky Dome, just like all these fucking things that change their names. It's a pay-per-view. I refuse to change my ways on that one. I am a woke human being, but I will not say premium live event.
Yeah, I am right there with you. I completely agree. So before we ride off into the sunset this week, Tyrone, I do have one last Royal Rumble related question. Easy for me to say. That was a mouthful of marbles for old Jay here. We talked about it earlier. My favorite part of the Royal Rumble is the surprise entrance. And we've pretty much, played our hand with surprises in terms of the women's Rumble. We might still get a few, but I'm more focused on the men's right now. What do you think, Tyrone? If you could choose 3 people, maybe legends or what have you, that you'd love to see make a run in this year at the Rumble, who would you like to see?
Am I counting NXT talent as well, or are we excluding that?
Let's just go old school names from the past.
All right, well, you're putting me on the spot here now, so you got to give me a second to think about that. But I think one that I'm going to throw out there that not a lot of people would really ever expect, but I think he would be fantastic in there, is Lance Storm. I think he could. I know he doesn't have the finishers here and there and the spots and this, but Lance Storm could still probably go coast to coast with that entire match. So he's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2. Now, do they still have to be in shape to work, or can I just start throwing random names out there?
No, you can. All they have to do is to be able to take a bump over the top rope. So I'll tell you what, you just said your one. I'll give you my number 1 that I've kind of thought about. We've heard his theme music over the last 6 or 8 months, a couple of times on television. What about Gangrel?
And I'm not mad at that, but I feel like if you bring Gangrel out to that theme music, then Edge can't use that music anymore when he goes to his dark place again. You know what I mean? Because then all the fans, there's tons of fans who weren't alive when Gangrel was a thing. They're all going to question what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. And And I don't really want to see Edge stop doing that particular entrance. I love when he does the Brood entrance. So, okay, I'll take that one back. In his place, I'll put, I'm going to say a tie between two Attitude Era stars. How about Steve Blackman or Hardcore Holly?
Oh, can we do ties? Like, I can have a tie for my number 2 and still have one more after that?
Just make it like 5 or 6. Just name a couple of guys.
Well, my next one would be the return of the 25-year tag team champions with Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags, and we would have a nasty Rumble.
That would be awesome. I would pop so huge for one of the Nasty Boys in the match. That would be so cool. Now, what about possibly, since they have a family member who's the NXT champion, what about Rick or Scott Steiner?
Would I pop for it? Yeah. Would the pop end real quick? Probably. As soon as they got in the ring. I could see Rick, actually. That one is definitely a possibility right now. No chance in hell you're getting Freakzilla, though. Big Papa Pump is not fucking around with the Fed these days.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. And then the last one, like who would you pick? I mean, maybe you're kind of dark horse. You don't see it happening. You know, is there anybody from that like back from the era we just talked about, the Royal Rumble 1992 era? Is there anybody that you could see that could still, again, all you have to do is take a bump over the rope. Would be an IRS be a possibility? I don't know.
Virgil.
Oh, I would probably pop for Virgil, but again, like your Steiner.
I would too, but it would be one of those like, oh my God, he's in the ring. All right, I don't fucking care anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like, yeah, well, you're popping for the music, right? So anyhow, it is one of the funnest times of the year, ladies and gentlemen. We love the Royal Rumble. I certainly do. I know Tyrone does. It's always a fun watch. You're sitting around having some snacks and chatting with your friends or with your better halves. It's a lot of fun. We certainly hope that you've enjoyed our presentation of the Royal Rumble 1992. It was a labor of love for me. I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to get very granular into WrestleMania 8. And Tyrone, you're actually going to take a little bit more of a powder here. I think you're going to have the next week off. And I'm going to be joined by Matty Daddy. And he's going to be joining me to do a watch-along of the February 3rd offering of Monday Night Raw. Now, this is a Monday Night Raw from the Sky Dome in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I was there live in attendance. It was actually recorded on January 31st, 1997, which was a Friday night, and then aired as a Raw episode the following Monday. So we're going to have a lot of fun looking back at that particular time, and can't wait to book something down the road with you, Tyrone. Now, I have a quick question. I'm going to put you on the spot. The next event that you want to book, do you want it to be a WCW, ECW, or Fed show?
Fed.
Okay, we're going back to the Fed. Very interesting. Well, I'm going to have to give that some thought then. Or would you like me to just pull one out of me right now and tell you what you're booking next?
You might as well just pull one out right now. That way I can kind of get through it and figure out what I'm going to do. Because knowing you, this could be anything. And as we've said on the show multiple times, we normally plan ahead of time. But considering the fact that I kind of have my own ebbs and flows with this show popping in and out, we haven't done that in a while. So Jay is legit about to drop a bombshell on me.
Oh boy, this is difficult. I have to just give this a little bit of thought. And you want to go Fed, eh? I was hoping you'd say WCW, but that's okay. I'll tell you what. You are going to go back in time to 1998, and you are going to book in your house No Way Out, It's Texas.
Oh, we're going to Texas. You know what that means.
Texas Death Match. Maybe some churros.
No, at least one Texas Death Match. There might even be one match that's outside the Alamo. I don't know where in Texas this pay-per-view takes place.
Houston.
Well, then we're not going to the Alamo, boys.
and girls, or girl, depending. I don't know how many people listen to this show. So we'll find out when Tyrone is back. And then I think we're going to go back to the world of World Championship Wrestling and Turner. We need to revisit some of our old friends there with the NWO and Sting and Luger and all the rest. It's time to revisit the world of prime time World Championship Wrestling, maybe some ECW as well. And of course, we'll be on the road to WrestleMania. We have a couple of really fun manias on tap. And of course, as we did last year, we're going to be doing the road to WrestleMania with WrestleManias 8 and 9 this year, 2 WrestleManias in succession, as well as touching on WrestleMania 13. So we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Tyrone, where can our listening audience find us on social media?
That is something that I should probably know, isn't it, Jay? On Facebook at the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, over on Twitter at good_enemies, Instagram at good_enemies, and for everything Good Friends Better Enemies and anything and everything under the Counted Out 7 umbrella, you go to countedout7.com.
And for myself, for Tyrone, for next week with Matty Daddy, for the Royal Rumble 1992, for the road to WrestleMania, and for this Saturday's pay-per-view of the Royal Rumble 2022, you've been listening to the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast.
Bye. Thank you, Maddie, for not making me watch this one.
World, put that cigarette out.